Some places seem ordinary, places where life continues as it always has. But then, there are places that refuse to be forgotten, places with histories so dark that they bleed into the present. Black Hollow Cemetery is one of those places. It is said that those who venture into its cursed grounds never leave. No one knows exactly why, but there are whispers of ancient rituals, restless spirits, and a curse that keeps the living trapped with the dead. Once you're inside, you're lost forever. It was just another night of youthful bravado and dares. Ethan, Rachel, and Mark were friends bound by their love for the eerie and the unknown. They had heard the stories about Black Hollow Cemetery, a forgotten burial ground hidden deep within the woods. Legend said that once you set foot inside, you could never leave. No one really believed it, of course, but the idea of uncovering the truth behind such a chilling tale was far too tempting to resist. 5 minutes, Mark said, grinning as he climbed the rusted gates.
We go in, snap a couple of pics, and leave. Easy.
The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the decaying tombstones. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and mildew. The cemetery gate, once ornate and majestic, was now weathered by time and nature's grasp. The trio squeezed through, and before they knew it, they were standing in the middle of the forgotten grounds.
See? Easy.
Mark chuckled, but his voice seemed to fade as soon as it left his lips. The moment they stepped deeper into the cemetery, they began to feel a strange disorientation. The air grew thicker, heavier, and suddenly the ground felt uneven underfoot. They had walked past rows of crumbling tombstones, past the graves of long-forgotten souls, when Ethan checked his phone. He tried to call his brother to let him know they were okay, but there was no signal.
I told you, there's no reception out here.
Ethan muttered, stowing his phone back in his pocket. They continued walking, with the silence pressing down on them from all sides. After what seemed like hours of walking, they realized they were back at the center of the cemetery, facing an ancient, stone mausoleum that loomed before them like a silent sentinel. The doors were ajar.
This doesn't feel right,
Rachel said, her voice shaky.
We should leave.
But as they turned to retrace their steps, something didn't add up. The gate, the way they had come in, was nowhere to be found. As the air grew colder, strange whispers slithered through the trees. They came from nowhere, no one was around, yet the voices seemed to echo from every direction. Rachel stopped in her tracks, her heart pounding.
Did you hear that?
She asked, looking over her shoulder. Ethan and Mark shook their heads. But Rachel had heard it. It was almost as if someone had spoken her name, soft and chilling, a voice that carried no warmth, only dread. Ethan reached out and gripped her arm.
We need to keep moving,
he urged, his voice strained. As they passed a row of graves, Rachel's eyes widened in disbelief. Her name was carved into one of the headstones, Rachel Davis, with the correct birth date. But the death date, it was that very night. The night she had entered Black Hollow Cemetery. Then, a dark shadow darted past them, vanishing into the trees. But they didn't see anything. It was as if it was there for only an instant, watching, waiting. They ran. They didn't know where they were going, but they knew they had to keep moving. Mark was leading the way, the faint beam of his flashlight cutting through the fog. And then, he was gone. Gone! Ethan and Rachel spun around, frantic, calling his name.
Mark!
Mark!
Where are you?
But there was no answer. No sign of him anywhere. His flashlight was still on the ground, its beam illuminating nothing but the empty air. It was as if Mark had been erased from the very space around them. The mausoleum doors, which had once been ajar, were now wide open, beckoning them with an eerie invitation.
Ethan, we need to go now.
Rachel said, her voice trembling. But before they could react, the stone doors slammed shut behind them with a thunderous crash. Inside the mausoleum, everything was different. The air was damp, thick with an ancient, musty smell. There were names carved into the walls, some old, others newly scratched, as if someone had added to the list only moments ago. Then they saw it. A figure emerged from the shadows, dragging something behind it. Mark. But not Mark. His face was twisted in an unnatural grin, his eyes completely black, hollow. His clothes were torn, as if he had been dragged through dirt and grime. The figure said, its voice distorted, unrecognizable.
They like it when you stay.
Rachel screamed, but it was too late. The mark before them was no longer their friend. He was one of them, trapped in the cemetery. The figure reached out, its skeletal hand grasping for them. The cemetery had a sickening pull on them. Ethan and Rachel fled, stumbling over gravestones, their breath heavy and ragged. The gate was right there, wide open as though offering them an escape. They ran through the gate, gasping for air. But when they looked around, they were back at the center of the cemetery. The gate slammed shut behind them with a deafening sound. There was no way out. The ground was pulling them back, the darkness closing in. Rachel screamed, her voice lost in the wind, while Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. Days later, a search party arrived. They found no trace of the missing teens. No footprints, no sign of a struggle, just an eerie silence that blanketed the cemetery. But when the fog parted, 2 new gravestones were visible. Ethan Carter and Rachel Davis stood side by side, their birth dates correct, their death dates, the night they had entered Black Hollow Cemetery. The cemetery still stands today, an empty place for the lost. But no one dares enter. Who knows what might be waiting for the next unsuspecting visitors?